Hi, everyone. I can't wait to read this article to you about Teotihuacan, the Aztec, but not really Aztec city found and just north of Mexico City, and today in modern day Mexico. It's on my bucket list. It's a place I really want to visit. So let's learn more about it. Screen share. Here we go. All right. Teotihuacan. This is from Britannica.com. Teotihuacan, in Nahuatl, the city of the gods, the most important and largest city of the pre Aztec central Mexico, located about 30 miles or 50 kilometers northeast of modern Mexico City. At its apogee, circa 500 CE, it encompasses some 8 square miles and supported a population estimated at 125,000 to 200,000 people, making it, at the time, one of the largest cities in the world. It was the region's major economic as well as religious center. Teotihuacan was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987. The area was settled around 400 BCE, but it did not experience large-scale urban growth until 3 centuries later, with the arrival of refugees from Quiculco, a city destroyed by volcanic activity. This region has a lot of volcanic activity, by the way. It is not known whether the basic urban plan also dates to that time. Around 750 CE, central Teotihuacan burned, possibly during an insurrection or a civil war. Although parts of the city were occupied after that event, much of it fell into ruin. Centuries later, the area was revered by Aztec pilgrims. Revered means like really respected. The origin and language of the Teotihuacanos are yet unknown. Their cultural influences spread throughout Mesoamerica, and the city carried on trade with distant regions. Perhaps two-thirds of the urban population were involved in farming and the surrounding fields. Others worked with ceramics or obsidian, a volcanic glass that was used for weapons, tools, and ornamentation. The city also had a large number of merchants, many of whom had immigrated there from great distances. The priest rulers who governed the city also staged grand religious pageants and ceremonies that often involved human sacrifice. A very common practice kind of when you start getting into central Mexico and south, human sacrifice. In addition to some 2,000 single-story apartment compounds, the ruined city contains great plazas, temples, a canalized river, and palaces of nobles and priests. The main buildings are connected by a 130-foot wide road. That's a really wide road, called the Avenue of the Dead, Calle de los Muertos, that stretches 1.5 miles. Oriented slightly east of true north, it points directly at the nearby sacred peak of Cerro Gordo, which kind of means like a chubby peak or like fat hill, fat mountain. The Avenue of the Dead was once erroneously thought to have been lined with tombs, but the low buildings that flank it probably were palace residences. The north end of the Avenue of the Dead is capped by the Pyramid of the Moon and flanked by platforms and lesser pyramids. The second largest structure in the city, the Pyramid of the Moon, rises to 140 feet and measures 426 by 511 feet wide at its base. Its main stairway faces the Avenue of the Dead. And here we are right down here. If we just pause reading for a minute, here's the Pyramid of the Moon here. Very famous. It's behind me. But this is the stairway that they're talking about. Okay, where did we leave off? Its main stairway faces the Avenue of the Dead. Along the southern part of the avenue lies the Ciudadela, the Citadel, a large square courtyard covering 38 acres. That's more or less 38 football fields in size. Within the Citadel stands the Temple of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, or as the Maya knew him, Kukulkan, in the form of a truncated pyramid. Projecting from its ornately decorated walls are numerous stone heads of the deity meaning God. The temple walls were once painted in hematite red. Excavations of the citadel were first carried out during the period between 1917 and 1920. Individual burial sites were found around the temple in 1925. And in the early 1980s, archaeologists discovered the ceremonially interred remains of 18 men, probably soldiers who had been ritually sacrificed. Intern means to to bury, like in a coffin or a tomb. Carbon-14 dating indicated that the graves were prepared around 200 CE. Further work has revealed more than 130 skeletons of both sexes in mass graves along the edges of the temple, as well as beneath it. This is 2,000 years ago. The Pyramid of the Sun is one of the largest structures of its type in the Western Hemisphere. It dominates the central city from the east side of the Avenue of the Dead. The pyramid rises 216 feet above ground level and measures approximately 720 by 760 feet at its base. That's really big. It was constructed of about 1 million cubic yards of material, including hewed tezontle, a red coarse volcanic rock of the region. During hastily organized restoration work in 1905 to 1910, the architect Leopoldo Batres arbitrarily added a fifth terrace level to the structure, and many of its original facing stones were removed. In the early 1970s, exploration below the pyramid revealed a system of cave and tunnel chambers. Over subsequent years, other tunnels were revealed throughout the city, and it was suggested that much of the building stone of Teotihuacan was mined there. That's not normal for people to build a city and build pyramids from the stone underneath their city. Usually they bring it from far away. That's very, very unique. Okay, reading on. The city was initially excavated in 1884. In the 1960s and 70s, the first systematic survey, the Teotihuacan Mapping Project, was led by the American archaeologist René Million. And hundreds of workers in 1980 to 1982 excavated under the direction of the Mexican archaeologist Ruben Cabrera Castro. Work in the 1990s focused on the city's subterranean tunnels and on the apartment compounds, which were found to be decorated with vividly painted murals. Long-standing threats to the greater area of ruins are posed by human habitation, including 5 towns that surround it. Numerous shops, roads and highways, and even a military base. Many neighborhoods excavated in the late 20th century had been earlier cultivated by farmers. And if you want to read more on Britannica.com, you can go look up Pre-Columbian Civilizations, Teotihuacan, and this article was mostly revised and updated by Kathleen Sheets. I really want to visit here. A city in the Americas, more than 2,000 years old, that is mind-blowing. Who built it? We don't know. Why did they build it? We don't know. What we know is that the Aztec found it empty 1,500 years later, about 1,200 years later, and eventually moved in themselves. But even the Aztec had no idea who built it. Anyway, that's our reading on Teotihuacan. I hope it inspires you to want to go visit, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.